Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Pondering Christianity. If you're new here, we tackle Christian apologetics, near-death experiences, deathbed visions. So if you are interested in conversations like that, do yourself a favor, hit that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be looking at why our near-death experience, people who've had near-death experiences leaving the church. We want to find out what's going on there, and I'll explain why. Without further ado, let's get in. So I had recently finished reading a book called God and the Afterlife, written by Dr. Long and Paul Perry. And in this book, he talks a lot about people's thoughts going into their near-death experience and then how the near-death experience changed them coming out of it. And one thing I couldn't help but notice was this tendency of people to kind of walk away from any traditional religious system. And I was trying to understand why that was, because a lot of the descriptors they would give of the life that they were living post near-death experience match very, very closely to what one would describe as Christian values. Those being living life with peace, love, and understanding, social service, a great feeling of trying to do better things for the world, a very in-depth relationship with a personal God who personally inspired them or speaks to them, a prayer life with having that connection, or a level of meditation that allows alone time and connection with that God. Those are some of the main highlights, I would say, and there's many more to it, but I would say that they had this increase in this life, yet they had this devalue of the church and the religious system. And I really wrestled with that. And I'm currently going through Consciousness Beyond Life by Pin Van Lommel. And he also has data that echoes that sentiment. And I have some of it today that I'm going to show you guys. And I'm going to give you the reason why I believe this is happening. And I think it's not that crazy of a reason either. So we'll get to that, but let's start with the data first. All right, now let me show you guys. Now this is a quickly, this is a study that Van Lommel is citing inside of his book. So it's Sutherland's study that he's citing within his book. But there's traditionally a massive change in someone's life post near-death experience. And so this is a polling of people before their near-death experience and how they valued things and then what they felt was important afterwards, okay? And so these are the values. So of people who were surveyed for the study, 36% regularly attended church, 38% regularly thought religion. I know I put 36, but it's supposed to be 38. 38% regularly thought religion, organized religion was important, of value. And then 48% said that they prayed. And then 20% said that they were on a quest for spiritual values. Okay? Now, what's interesting is how after their near-death experience, how these things change. And this is the percentile change of the respective fields. 18%, that's almost half the original amount. 18% reduction thought that there was less value in going to church. They no longer wanted to attend church. So originally 36% thought it was important. 18% declined from that. Okay. Organized religion, 16% dropped down from there. So that really catches your eye, especially if you're religious or you see organized religion having a value. You almost would assume that people with near-death experiences might see a higher level of value in these respective fields, but they don't. And this also kind of pours questions down of what does the psychology have to say about this? If these people were just simply having hallucinations and having experiences that they were creating in and of themselves, you would assume that would be coming from people who have already pre-built in biases towards these particular organizations or this particular lifestyle. You wouldn't expect to see such a dramatic shift in value or in their personal values. And that's what we see here. We see church attendance go down. We see organized religion go down. So on both categories, they no longer see value in those two things. And I pulled a few there were more information on this particular graph that you can look into, but I pulled out some of the ones that I thought were really interesting highlights. Here's where it gets even more interesting, right? Is prayer. goes up. 48% participated in prayer regularly. After the near-death experience, 26% bump to that. So it's 26% because it's at 74 by the time they're done. Then here's the huge leap. Quest for spiritual values is at 20%. 20% of the field thought the quest for spiritual values was important. And then after their near-death experience, they were bumped up to 68% bump to that. What gets me about all of this is you see these values that you would typically associate with a religious person. Quest for spiritual value, prayer, a high level of value in the sanctity of life, the meaning of life, helping other people, social justice. You see all of these categories increase, yet you see this decrease in their wanting to attend church. And by reading some of the personal accounts, you see them say things like, I understand now that my relationship with God is a personal one, and I no longer need to go to church to get that. So what I think is happening here is I think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what church is supposed to be by some of the near-death experiencers, because not all of them walk away from the church, only some do. But then there's also a fundamental misunderstanding of what the church is supposed to be by the church itself, okay? And that's why you see such a stark decline in organized religion, because these people come back and they want to have a prayer life. They want to have a life focused around relationships. They want to have a life built around helping others, loving others, and undoing some of the social injustices, such as helping people less fortunate than them, providing for people who are being oppressed, right? Providing a sanctuary for them in the sense that they want to show them love, right? And so these are the things that I think about when I think of what a church is supposed to be. And so what this does for me is this shows me the discrepancy between what church is supposed to be and what it actually is. And it's being confirmed by these people who probably grew up in an organized religion or grew up in or attended a church that had a lot more we'll say earthly value put into it, and therefore created this disillusion. Once they come back from their near-death experience, they realize how misled they were in that organized religion body. Now, the other thing that I think is of interest is how people do commentate on the fact that church was where they went to be with God. And that's also a fundamental misunderstanding of what church is supposed to be. And many pastors would say this, is that, or I'd hope they would say this, is that church is not the place where you go to be with God. Church is where you go to be with other people who want to be with God. And so you create a community of people who are wanting to experience the presence of God together. And so that's what church is supposed to be focused on, in addition to social service projects, welcoming, loving communities of people. Now, many churches aren't that way, and I know this personally from my own personal experience, as well as communicating with other people. And if you don't believe me, just go ask people who went to church and ask them what they thought of the experience. It feels like a club sometimes. It feels niche-y or clitchy, not niche-y. It feels clicky. clicky. So you go there and you feel like you don't fit in. And so this exposes the church, the organized religious body, to show that we have put too much value into elevating people, or put too much value into these fundamental mischaracterizations of the texts of which we are inspired by, and created these bodies of clubs, I suppose you could call them. And so I think that, of course, you would expect to see a near-death experiencer come back from that and be disillusioned with it. And again, I think that the numbers back it up in saying that they have increased prayer time, an increased time of meditation where they're reflecting upon themselves and how to improve and getting to know themselves better. A quest for spiritual value goes up. A want for social justice goes up. A want for relationships and loving people goes up. And so you see these characteristics come out of the near-death experience that you would expect to see someone who's a reborn Christian have as well. And the fact that they no longer see value within the church, I don't know, it shows me that the church they were going to probably didn't put value in the right place, and therefore they felt like there was a disconnection there, or perhaps they misunderstand the purpose of church. in the sense that church is not supposed to be the place you go to in order to communicate with God. Prayer is that. And that's why you see an increase in prayer, because prayer is the vehicle in which you communicate directly with God with. Now, church is a place where you go to be with other people who have the same values as you. And so ultimately, I think it's interesting to see the changes in these people's behavior after the near-death experience. And you would almost assume that this disproves a certain type of religion, which I don't think I'll have time to kind of go into that fully, because I think that needs to be fleshed out fully. But you see this value system that they come back with and they describe, and it sounds a lot like fundamental Christianity. Having a relationship with the creator of the universe, having love towards your neighbor as much as you love yourself, of a sense of relationships being a high priority. The only thing it seems to be that they're missing within the Christian framework is Jesus, and that depends on the near-death experiencer and the experience that they have. I mean, some people say that the being of light they encounter is Jesus. Some people say it's God. Again, that's probably something that's being interpreted through the cultural lens in which you go to heaven with. That's what this week's video is on. I really wanted to just tackle that because it's been kind of bothering me lately. It's just been a question on my mind a lot, and I really feel like the answer to that is that these people are coming back and just having the church has a fundamental misunderstanding of what the church is supposed to be, and the person has a misunderstanding that the church isn't supposed to be a vehicle in which they use to communicate with God. The church doesn't do that. Now, the church can be a place where people come to find God, but I mean, you can find God anywhere. So that concludes this topic, this week's video. If you guys liked it, give it a like. And a couple of quick announcements. So I am officially beginning my bachelor's in science of apologetics at Liberty University. If you don't know where that's it's in Virginia, and that's where Gary Habermas is at, and Mike Licona also went there. So two famous apologist scholars on the resurrection. These guys specifically focus on the resurrection. So I'm pretty hyped up to do that. This might be the last near-death experience video for a little bit of time, because I think most of my videos are going to probably focus on the content that I'm going through for school, which will be traditional apologetics. And I'm pretty pumped for that. So I'm excited to see what that education does in terms of leveling me up and my ability to help you guys out. And and I'm excited to just see the road that goes down. So also keep an eye out for the November t-shirt design release. If you want to support the channel, that's going to be the best way to do it. And I don't think I have anything else. If you guys like the channel, give it a like, give it a comment. Tell me what you thought, why you think near-death experience people don't see an increase in going to church. They see a decrease. What do you think that's caused by? And in the meantime, do me a favor and just keep on pondering. See you guys next time.